And this has turned into one of the best Giants off seasons that we've seen in a while. You feel totally different about what the Giants' outlook is in 2021 today than you did even just a week ago. So kudos to the front office, and a front office that, quite frankly, I've been very hard on. Dave Gettleman, I've been hard on him and some of the decisions that he's made as the general manager of the New York Giants. But today he deserves credit. Kevin Abrams, their pro player personnel guy, who's basically their cap guy, he deserves a ton of credit. Guys like Nate Solder, who took way more of a haircut than we ever even thought, he deserves credit. How they've been able to maneuver and shuffle to fit these contracts in, and obviously the latest is Adoree Jackson, the corner from the Tennessee Titans, who's coming off of a year that was plagued by injury, but one who obviously the Giants feel like is fully over his knee injury, and somebody who they can pair with James Bradberry, and now you have a very, very formidable secondary. So slow clap, snaps, whatever you want to give to Dave Gettleman and to this front office, because they look dead in the water. They're signing backup running backs. I mean, they let
Dave
Gettleman
I trust. Dave Gettleman I trust because, I mean, he came back with resurgence. I mean, there is no doubt the Giants get the last laugh because it's not about Devontae Booker, who they signed early in free agency. They've added Kyle Rudolph to pair up with Evan Ingram at tight end, Kenny Galladay at wide receiver. You wanted your number one wide out? Well, here's Dave Gettleman. Here's your number one wide receiver. 4 years, $72 million with $40 million guaranteed. There was one more fish in the pond, so to speak, and that would be Adoree Jackson, and there was Logan Ryan having dinner with Adoree, convincing him to come to the Giants. 3 years, $39 million for Adoree Jackson to pair up with James Bradberry. Listen, if you're a Dave Gettleman knocker, I mean, today's not the day. This week has not been the week. There is no celebrations in any way, shape, or form because Dave Gettleman and the Giants have had an unbelievable, not good, they've had an unbelievable offseason. They've added a corner to pair up with Bradberry. They added Rudolph. They were in on Hunter Henry. They added Kenny Galladay. Kenny Galladay wanted to be here. He was here for basically 2 days. Wine, dined, met with Judge, met with Gettleman. They got over the character concerns, and he gets the contract that he was looking for. You know, so you look at the Giants right now in an offseason in which you thought they could do next to nothing, where they bring back Leonard Williams after tagging him, giving him the 3-year contract. Yes, they did lose Dalvin Tomlinson, if you want to be a negative Nelly, and I get that, but still, this offseason has been unbelievable for Gettleman and the Giants. There's no other way to cut it. They're going to take a massive step forward. You could make the argument that the Giants have the best secondary in the National and the NFC. I mean, there's no doubt with Jackson, as long as he's over that knee injury, with Adoree and Bradberry at your two opposite corners, that is going to be fantastic. And given how creative that Patrick Graham can be as a defensive coordinator, there's nothing not to be excited about if you're a Giant fan. It's fantastic. I mean, it just really is. To go along with the optimism coming off Joe Judge's first year, I know Gettleman, and he deserved to be knocked for the job that he has done up until this point, but now's not the time because he and his staff, Kevin Abrams and the like, and everybody that got into having this kind of offseason to make something out of nothing, restructuring contracts to get yourself more money to play with as the cap went down nearly $16 million from a year ago. I'm stunned. I'm surprised. I'm ecstatic because I think the Giants as an organization, talent-wise, there's nothing not to like what they've done this offseason.
It's got that feeling when all of a sudden you're leaving the stadium and the Giants just won and they just pulled out a victory and you're still sort of shaking your head like, how did they do that? How did they pull this off? But they did, and on paper, they got much better. And a couple things that this sort of, a couple things here, even more. So the fact that they were able to pivot, sort of mid-free agency and go for Adoree Jackson, who, unless they had some kind of intel, I mean, this guy was released a week ago. I don't know how many people thought that he was going to get released by the Tennessee Titans, and maybe there's something to question there. Why didn't the Titans want to bring him back on a $10 million deal, pick up that option? But, okay, they do their due diligence. They've checked out the knee. They feel like that's okay. So, they were able to pivot when they saw that a guy becomes available that they absolutely needed. They needed another corner. You had Bradberry from last year, and he was excellent. But you know what? You just had guys who weren't throwing his way, and they were taking advantage of the inexperience on the other side. And now that's not going to be possible. And listen, the Giants don't really They were able to manufacture a bit of a pass rush last year. They did not spend on a big-time edge rusher, but that's, again, where the secondary becomes so important. So they've shored up that secondary. They've made that a solid unit for them. And so, with Patrick Graham, maybe you can still manufacture a pass rush, and at least you have your lockdown in the back end. The other part is about the draft. This is a situation now where, the Giants actually were and are in win now mode. They've thrown around the word rebuilding over and over again, but no one was going to believe that year 2 of Judge and Gettleman's 4th draft, that this was going to be any type of a rebuild. You couldn't sell that anymore because it's time to start winning games. And that's why you needed free agency to be so big for you, because you do have to fill these holes. The draft is only going to help you to a certain extent at this point. When you're this type of team and you're ready to start winning, you don't need a quarterback, you don't need a left tackle. Like, you need to start winning and plugging the holes, and that's exactly what free agency is all about. That's what they had to start doing. And so it was a little nerve-wracking the first couple days of free agency when you have the Patriots just sort of pounding on everyone, just dunking on everyone, signing guy after guy. And you have even the Jets getting into it early on in free agency. Well, lo and behold, here we are now a week later, and the Giants have spent the 3rd most money of any team in free agency this offseason and made their team better.
For sure. I mean, the team is better, no doubt. But the difference is the Giants had to get super creative. The Patriots had the 4th most cap money in the National Football League. The Jets, someone's got to wake Joe Douglas up. We'll get into the Jets in a little bit, but he's clearly taken the long road here for that organization, and that's fine. But the Giants coming into it, they had to get rid of Zeitler just to get under the cap. I mean, there were things that they needed to do to get really, really creative for Abrams and for Gettleman and their staffs in order to get these deals done, which is remarkable. We went through it. 55% of the Giants' cap hit was tied into 10 players. The knocks on having high draft choices and what those guys are making in rookie deals, everything that we talked to, well, give them all the credit in the world because they deserve it, because they made moves and added personnel where I didn't really think it was possible. I didn't think giving Adoree Jackson a 3-year, $39 million deal on top of giving Kenny Golladay 4 for $72 to go along with, bringing in a Kyle Rudolph and everything that they've done this offseason. I really never thought that was really conceivable or possible. But give Abrams a lot of credit. He was able to be very, very creative in getting these deals done. The way the Kenny Golladay deal is structured, I'm sure the way that the Adoree Jackson deal is structured, and the Giants are a better football team regardless, and Gettleman deserves a ton of credit. He just does. I mean, there's, you got to... You look at it, it's time to enjoy it, time to celebrate. You go into the draft where you're sitting there with the 11th overall pick and you can draft the best player on the board. You don't have this glaring need that you need to go and address. So that helps an organization as well. They would love to add a young edge rusher. You can go a lot of different ways for this team. Clearly, you need the offensive line, those young guys, to be able to take that massive step forward that the Giants are expecting. And yes, you do need Daniel Jones to be the player at quarterback that the Giants as an organization believe that he is, even with all the naysayers and detractors out there. So the Giants have done these moves. They're better off right now, and they're a more talented group, and it's a win-now situation. But there are 2 keys to their success that we won't know the answers to until the regular season gets going next September.
Right. They are betting, rightfully so, that the cap is going to be going up and up and up and up. And how could you not, considering the television deal that the league just signed for $110 billion, and also the fact that we don't even understand the scope of the gambling money, and when the NFL does sort of wrap their arms around how they're going to make money off of this and continue to make money off of it, what that's going to do to the NFL. Like, the NFL is on a trajectory in terms of like money making that I didn't even like. I thought it was impossible for the NFL to even find new audiences. Like, they're blowing me away, and just because I thought everybody in the world is already, or everyone in the United States, was it that way? Everyone in the United States from 8 years old to 80 years old is already an NFL fan. You already have 10 fantasy teams. You already are totally bought in. They're finding new ways to make money, and obviously looking internationally to find new markets, and it's amazing. And so the Giants are betting that the cap's going to go up and up and up, so they were able to get deals that were friendly for this year. And then obviously they'll look down the line, and that is another thing that helps when you have a quarterback who's on a rookie deal. Eventually you're going to, if Daniel Jones is the guy And we're going to find out in year 3, aren't we? Because he's got weapons galore. He's in that all-important step forward year 3. He's got his offensive coordinator for the second year. We think that they're going to have much more of an offseason in terms of being able to get together and practice and all that, get chemistry with each other than they did in 2020. And this is going to be huge for him. And so you still have him on the rookie deal. This is the time. And then if you find out that Daniel Jones maybe isn't the guy, well, then you're going to have to start over, but you're still making these at quarterback, but you still have, these signings of people who are young and in or entering their prime. So it kind of works all the way around, but of course the Giants are hoping that Daniel Jones is the guy,
sure.
And this is the best way to evaluate him. Give him a good team and see what he does with it.
Well, the Giants are looking to win next year. These are not just we talked a little bit about it yesterday. Yes, the evaluation of Daniel Jones is a fair point, but the Giants are looking at this NFC East as a very, very winnable division, and they should. They absolutely should. So next year is not going to be about moral victories or how the team played, or next year is going to be about results, win-loss. Did you win the game? Did you lose? What is Jones doing? We're not celebrating when he didn't turn the football over. It's about whether or not you came out victorious, because they're not wrong. The Eagles are a complete and utter mess. The Dallas Cowboys defense was a disaster last year. They've got Dak coming off a significant injury. And Washington, even though their front seven is as legit as there is in the NFL, you've got Fitzpatrick at quarterback, who runs very, very hot and cold over the course of his career. Good guy. He's been a good quarterback. He's going to make himself a lot of money, $10 million for the 1 year with $2 million in incentives. Good for Fitzpatrick that he gets a starting job in the National Football League. But I wouldn't exactly say that's an upper tier quarterback that's going to be running that Washington team. So with all of that, you look at this Giant team, the moves that they've made is the hell with the rebuild. It's time to win football games. And that's the gauntlet has been thrown down. You don't add Kenny Golladay, Adoree Jackson. The guys that they've added this offseason get as creative as they did with the cap in order to say, okay, we'll see in a couple years. This is now the pressure's on Daniel Jones to step up, to play, and be that quarterback that the Giants as an organization believe he can be. I don't know if he is. We're all going to find out together, because all of these moves can become, can really not equate to anything if the quarterback doesn't play well. So that's the big thing. The guy that's in-house. Now there's no excuses. There's no excuses for Garrett. There's no excuses for Daniel Jones. The offensive line should be better. You've got 2 young tackles, left tackle, right tackle. Solder is going to be a swing guy. They liked Lemieux last year and what he has shown. The Giants are looking to win football games. The hell with the rebuild. That's over. It's go time in 21.